think this is what Peter has in mind when he's talking about Jesus as the chief shepherd. He is the one that was prophesied here in Ezekiel 34. So he points back, he's using these Old Testament illustrations to indicate who Jesus is and how we need to be in life. So the elders basically says, you're supposed to shepherd the flock. You're going to give account to the chief shepherd, to this guy here who's the scribe. And this is what he wants you to do. He's entrusted the care of the flock. Don't be like those wicked shepherds were that God was upset with, who were taken out, that Ezekiel talks about. So I mentioned before, there are tremendous problems in the church today with bad leaders. It's caused unbelievable havoc. This has caused havoc in Catholic churches, Protestant churches, Anabaptist churches, churches of Christ, all different kinds of churches. There's problems with corrupt leaders, and things like sexual abuse of vulnerable members, adultery, fornication, homosexual abuse, leaders who are primarily focused on protecting their financial positions, and even sometimes going to the point of outright corruption and theft from other people, from Christians. Leaders who are thinking, rather than what does the chief shepherd expect me to do here to watch out for the souls of my flock, they're thinking, what's going to happen to the donations if I preach this hard teachings of Jesus? Okay, what's going to happen to this certain rich donor in the church if I talk about some things that they're not going to like? They might cut the money off. And that steers people. It's the love and the concern for money rather than pleasing the chief shepherd. They don't understand what their real responsibility is. So, avoiding teachings on very obvious things from the scriptures, on materialism and greed, teaching on the permanence of marriage, the role of men and women in the family and the church, and non-resistance. A lot of people out there teaching about the sin of homosexuality, fornication. A lot of people don't want to address these things from the scriptures because they're afraid they're going to lose money. Okay, or somebody who's drawing a salary is afraid that they're going to be cut off financially if they preach the gospel. But you have to remember, there's the chief shepherd is the one that we're answering to. We have to have a clear conscience before him. And Peter's saying, don't be going after money. You have to prepare yourself to give a good answer to the chief shepherd. You can't be playing favorites in the church, treating the rich people one way, the rich and influential people one way, and the poor people who have no influence a different way. You can't have two different standards in the church. The other thing you can't do that I've seen is covering up. When a leader gets involved in sin and it becomes obvious, most churches cover it up. That happens in the Catholic Church here in Boston. A scandal became so much worse because people realized the leaders knew about this and they were covering it up. And I mean, I've seen that from the background that I came out of even more recently than that, about the tendency when there's some corruption that takes place, let's sugarcoat it, let's hide it, let's not really directly address it like it says in the scriptures. I think this is 1 Timothy chapter 5. How many churches do all of what I'm about to read, including the last part? Okay, let's think about this. 1 Timothy chapter 5, starting verse 17. Let the elders who rule be counted worthy of double honor, especially those who labor in the word and doctrine. For the scripture says, you shall not muzzle an ox while it treads out the grain, and the labor is worthy of his wages. Now, a lot of churches do a pretty good job with that, that they financially support those who are working. Do not receive an accusation against an elder except from 2 or 3 witnesses. And here's the part. This is where the hammer comes down. Those who are sinning, this is talking about the elders, rebuke in the presence of all, so that the rest also may fear. Where are the churches that are putting that part of the scripture into practice? Okay, this is what you're supposed to do. You don't hide it because, well, if people found out about this, they'd stop giving to the church. They might leave the church. No. You have to be concerned about the souls of people because sin spreads. It's like an infectious disease. It just spreads. Okay. And it says, no, when this thing happens, you expose it, you bring it into the light. You treat the elders with respect and honor. You don't just, it's just not some random accusation, but 2 or 3 people point out the sin of an elder, of a leader in the church. It says you need to rebuke them publicly so that everybody else, including all the other leaders, will fear and not do the same thing. That's the way you're supposed to deal with problems in the church. It doesn't say, well, if you picked a blameless person to be an elder, you're never going to have any problems. It says, no, you're going to have problems, and here's how you handle them when they show up.